Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network. We have some lineup questions here for the Pittsburgh Penguins at the start of November. We're going to lead this segment off with that, and then we'll go into our thoughts entirely on the month of October for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Only 8 games played in that month because we started on, the 13th, 12th or 13th, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But when it comes to the lineup, the Penguins are starting to get healthy. Not fully healthy. I don't know if they'll ever be fully healthy, but they're starting to see some players reemerge into the lineup, which is a nice change of pace from the beginning of the season. Sidney Crosby returned on Saturday against the New Jersey Devils. And the question was, who's he going to play with? Obviously, the easy answer on his left side is Jake Guentzel. You expected Guentzel to be on his left side, but who is always on his right wing has been a big question for the past couple of seasons. And what we saw on Saturday was Evan Rodriguez stay on that top line due to his performance when Crosby was out. How long are you, Horwat, willing to watch Evan Rodriguez on the top line?
About 3 shifts.
Oh.
About 3 shifts. I don't care how good he was this year, and I don't care if you played with him last year. Something about Evan Rodriguez just sitting up there on that line doesn't sit right with me. He's the replacement level player that we don't have pegged as a Pascal Dupuis type like we do with Danton Heinen, per se, who finally got back into the scoring race. I think that would be the guy to go with, and I give it a shot. He's been playing well. It's not worst comes to worst. You adjust the lines again. All we're doing is kind of wasting time until Brian Rust comes back. We actually put him there, right? I mean, it's not the end of the world to give Heinen that chance after we realize Rodriguez just doesn't fit there. I mean, he was the lowest producer whenever he was on that line last season, was he not? It's just the way it goes. Rodriguez has covered well for us. He had to be first-line center for some reason. It's not ideal, and having him on the first line isn't ideal. So moving him back down to his replacement level status, wherever it be in that lineup, is where he should be. And then you stick Heinen up there in the meantime because he seems to be able to play anywhere and is overperforming himself at this moment. We're getting Boston Danton Heinen. That's what we wanted. So now you give him that chance with Crosby, see what happens there. Worst comes to worst, he does great. And then you just have to move him whenever Rust comes back, because I'm assuming that's Rust's spot in the matter of a week. What am I saying? Not a week. Rust is with we still don't know.
Yeah, we still have no idea on Brian Rust. So,
okay.
I mean, he is working out, which is good, but we still have no idea. When it comes to Evan Rodriguez, though, I understand it. I get it. I understand putting him there as soon as Crosby gets back because you're rewarding a guy that stepped in a big way for you and a guy that was playing very well. I mean, let's not forget the fact. I understand we don't want to see Evan Rodriguez play with Sidney Crosby. It's not sexy. It's not appealing. It's not what we want to see when we see the lineup card. But are we forgetting the way he just played when Crosby was out? He was our first line center and he was not doing poorly. He was playing well. Specifically, he was playing well and with his underlying numbers. I struggled to get that out there. But his underlying numbers were good as the first-line center for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the production was also there as much as you can expect for Evan Rodriguez on a first-line center role. Now, I understand. Give him the opportunity with Sid and Jake. See if he can continue that. And if he doesn't, what's the harm in putting him down lower in the lineup? And if he plays well lower in the lineup, then you're golden.
Yeah.
How long am I willing to watch this? I would give him till the end of the homestand. I would give him the Flyers game and the Wild game. Let him play on that line for a couple more games, see how it works out, specifically see how the underlying numbers work out. I understand he's not going to score in every game. I understand this line might score, but he might not be a part of it in every single game. But at the same time, they were abysmal when it came to possession, when it came to scoring chances on last Saturday's game. So if they can improve on that, maybe you keep him in, but I would give him till the end of this homestand. If I don't see an improvement, that's when I have an issue. And let's talk about Heinen. You just mentioned him. He's on the 4th line.
Yeah,
maybe that's when you put Heinen up there.
Yeah, where did that come from? The thing about Heinen, too, is we've utilized him in such a weird way. It's either you're on the first line or you're on the last.
It's a Dom Simone thing, but he's not. I mean, he's better than Dom Simone. He can finish.
He's got a one-way contract.
Yeah.
There's the difference. It's the wildest thing. He's either on the top line with Granite, Rodriguez, and Gensel, or shoved to the fourth line where in Dom Simone's place, like you mentioned. Yeah. So I think if we just give him a little stability and we make it, because we've seen him pop off already. 3 goals in the first 3 games of the season. He just got back on the scoring sheet.
Saturday.
Which game was it? Was it the Devils game?
Devils game. Yeah, he scored the first goal.
So we've seen him come back. So we know that wasn't a fluke in any sort of way. He has that ability. Why not give him a great playmaker like Crosby, who admittedly, needs to catch up again, but can do so with someone who might be at about the same speed right now with Dan Heinen. It's a little bit of a slower first line while Crosby picks up, but it's an idea and something that I think we talked about at the beginning of the year, possibly happening at the end.
Yeah. And the funny thing is with this, it feels like the Penguins' middle 6 is set. It feels like Zucker, Carter, Kapanen as a second line is something that Mike Sullivan really likes. And honestly, I'm willing to see that through because I think that could be a really good line. And then, of course, Mike Sullivan has his old reliable line of Zach Aston-Reese, Teddy Bluger, and Brock McGinn. I think Brock McGinn has slotted into that role, that Brandon Tanev role, quote unquote, very, very well. We saw him score his second goal of the season in Saturday's game. He looks good. He also blew somebody up. And I don't remember if that was Saturday's game or if that was Thursday night's game, but he blew someone up at the Penguins blue line. And I absolutely loved that because that is just the epitome of the way he plays. He can score goals. He can also be physical. I like that line as well. So the question then becomes, what do you do with Evan Rodriguez? What do you do with Danton Heinen? Those are the big questions because those guys, you're either on the top line or the fourth line. And right now, I like Drew O'Connor as a fourth liner. I think he's good. I like Brian Boyle as your fourth line center. I think that's a good slot for him. Those guys have shown offensive upside this year, but also have been pretty good when it comes to defending their own zone. Now, whether I'd like to see Heinen or Rodriguez on that line, I'd rather see Rodriguez. If I had my choice, I'd rather see Rodriguez. But I understand giving Erod an opportunity on that top line because of how he played before Crosby came back. That's the only thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I get it too. It's also the experience thing. He's played with Crosby before. He's played with Crosby and Gensel before. He did it last year, and it wasn't awful. Yeah, just the lowest producer. That's all. I'm just a fan of a little bit of change and giving a new guy a chance and seeing what could happen. Because we've also seen Mike Sullivan be pretty fluent in changing lines mid-game.
Have we though? We really haven't. I don't think.
Not when they're winning, but like when times get tough, hey, this isn't working, switch it up. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I said 3 shifts. You see that it's not working out after 3 shifts. All right, boldly switch it up. Heinen and Rodriguez, easy switch. Boom.
Listen, I think there's also an element of, hey, this is Sidney Crosby's first game in 5 months. Let's give him someone familiar.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point, and I do believe at some point we will see Heinen up on the second or on the first line with Sidney Crosby. There's a whole new conversation whenever Malkin comes back, but he's not going to be back in the month of November, so we don't have to talk about that. But this forward lineup, it seems like you're starting to figure it out. Once you bring back Malkin, once you bring back Rust, you see probably Evan Rodriguez get taken out of the lineup. And to be completely fair, you probably see maybe a Drew O'Connor get taken out of the lineup as well. Either Drew O'Connor or Brian Boyle. That's what it's going to come down to. We talked about it on last Monday's episode.
Probably
but the forward core,
I hope it's Boyle at least. No offense to the guy. He's been a ton of fun. The team loves him, but
he's a good locker room guy. We've said that how many times already?
Yeah, it's what's best for business.
Yeah. So the forwards seem like there's kind of an understanding of how this is going to go if people get healthy. The defensive side is just a crapshoot right now. Yeah. Chris Letang is out on COVID list. Pettersson and Ruhwedel just got added to the COVID list. Brian Dumoulin is not having his best of starts to the season. I mean, Pettersson just got put on the COVID list. Like I said, he's been the best defenseman, in my opinion, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. When it comes to actually playing the position, he has been the best. John Marino, I think, has had a good start to the year.
Yeah.
But Marcus Pettersson, if you look at the way that he's been playing and some of the big plays that he's made, I think he's been the Penguins' best defenseman. So that is a huge blow. But when healthy, I have to giggle internally when I say that. But when healthy, who should be the bottom pair on this defense? Because we expect Dumoulin, Letang to be up there. We expect Pettersson, Marino to possibly, most likely, be the second pairing. Who's your third pairing then?
Well, then you got Mike Matheson, because you cannot, in good mindset, take him out of the lineup.
Yeah,
all that damn money you're paying him. Plus, he's looked good. He hasn't been worth the money, but he's looked fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically coming down to that last spot, and it always has been.
Yeah.
For what it is worth, P.O. Joseph just got the call up. I'm just going to list off all the defensemen, whether or not they are in that's on that side of the ice or not, because I don't remember off the top of my head about that.
Yeah.
But like I said, P.O. Joseph got the call up for this COVID situation, and will probably play because Chad Ruhwedel, probably the guy in that spot. Mm-hmm. So he's down. Mark Friedman, I like him on the ice, but he's not the smartest of players and isn't the greatest of defensemen. Mm-hmm. He seems to be more of a pest than anything at this point. So I don't know what to make of his spot in this lineup, because he's a Brian Burke and Ron Hextall guy, not a Mike Sullivan guy. And there's a bit of a difference there. Mm-hmm. He's capable, but it's just not the wisest. So who knows exactly what you do there. Oh, and Juuso Riikola, guess what? Looks good.
Yeah, he did. He did in his first game on Saturday.
Anybody surprised?
Yeah. His first game since what? I think they said like
9
January.
months,
yeah. So like 9 months. And he looked good. He had a good game. His Corsi was, plus over 50%. Everything was over 50%. It was nice. It was nice to see him play there. But if all healthy, again, internal giggles aside, I would say it's probably Matheson, Ruhwedel. I mean, obviously, Mike Matheson needs to be in this lineup for obvious reasons. And I think you saw with the fact that Friedman is healthy, yet Riikola was put in on Saturday, shows that this team, management-wise, is not sold on Mark Friedman being the next guy there. So that's why you saw Riikola get in. So it seems like right now Riikola has kind of an advantage if he continues to play well. But at the same time, Riikola has never had an issue when the puck is on his stick. He's never had an issue on the offensive side of playing defense. It's the defensive side of playing defense. It's the turnovers that have killed him. He didn't do it on Saturday. He didn't. He had a good game. But when you talk about who you're pairing with Matheson, it's clearly Ruhwedel. He's clearly the most responsible. Definitely the guy that doesn't need to have the puck on his stick, whereas Riikola does to be able to make great plays. And Friedman, he's a little too, unpredictable to put alongside a guy that's also unpredictable, and Mike Matheson. So I feel like the obvious answer is Chad Ruhwedel, but it'd be nice to see Riikola get in there a little bit more.
It would be. Although, because the thing is, you stick him, he's probably in the third line with Matheson. You suddenly have two offensive defensemen on your third line on defense. Mm-hmm. And if it's fully healthy, half of your defense is offensive defensemen because you throw Letang in there. Ideally, how many of those kind of defensemen do you want in your lineup at a time? Like 2, maybe?
3 at most.
3 at most? Well, we're sitting at 3 at most there. Because I'm assuming Riikola falls in the offensive category. We know Matheson does.
Yeah, but I feel like when I say 3 at most, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. When I say 3 at most, I feel like it's if you're offensive at the expense of your defense. I don't think Chris Letang falls into that category, and I also don't think John Marino does. I think both of them are stellar defensemen, but a guy like Riikola, on the other hand, and Matheson is where you start to tip the scales.
Yeah, and I wasn't even counting Marino in that because we would run down all of them. We could just say Dumoulin, full-on defensive defenseman. Pettersson, puck mover, but not a scorer, not an offensive defenseman. John Marino, two-way, boom, you cover both. And there's kind of where I guess Letang would fall in your head. And I can agree with that. I totally can. He is a good defenseman too. People always peg him as the offensive style defenseman and just kind of look at the numbers rather than seeing the defensive play, because the defensive play is kind of what gets him blown up on Twitter half the time.
Yeah.
So there's kind of my thought process behind it, because he isn't the greatest defensively, but he's got his touch. And then Matheson just is a forward, period. And Ricola, we just haven't seen. Let's be real, we haven't seen enough. For all we know, he could be a hell of a two-way player, but we just have not utilized him enough at all. How many career games does he have? Has he played a whole season yet?
I think he probably has, because he's played in parts of, I believe, 3 seasons for the Penguins, or 4 seasons for the Penguins, possibly. But he only played in like 3 games last season. So, and he's only had 1 so far this year. So it might be close, but
career 76.
So yeah, he hasn't even played a full 82 yet.
But 13 points in those 76 games.
Hey, that's not awful.
No, not at all.
And he has such a good shot. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but he has such a sneaky good shot. He just never uses it, and it pisses me off. But let's move on really quickly and close out this segment with our thoughts on the first month of the season. The Penguins go 3-3-2 in the month of October. Sidney Crosby misses 7 of the 8 games played. 4 different players missed time on the COVID list. That number is going to be up to 6 the second the next game starts. Rust gets injured in game 2, and your leading scorers are Danton Heinen with 6 points, Evan Rodriguez with 5 points, and Drew O'Connor with 5 points. Horwat, is this a better or worse start than you expected going into the season?
Wins wise, record wise, better. Statistics wise, worse. And hear me out on this, because when we just have these discussions of, hey, our stars are not going to be in the lineup, who's stepping up? It's usually immediately that's the second tier guys on our team, like Gensel, like Rust, but he's hurt, but I'm still going to throw him in there. Those are the guys you expect to step up in that situation, and they haven't yet. Gensel, Kapanen is the one I was trying to think of, or Carter for that matter. They just haven't fully been there yet. It's time for at least Gensel and Kapanen to find their game and elevate themselves to what they should have been. But then you look at the record and you say 3-3-2. Okay, it's not the greatest, but it is slightly better than I was expecting going into the season without Crosby and Malkin. And then if you were to tell me, hey, we're also going to lose Letang, Carter, and Rust along the way, and then Gensel for a game, yeah, I don't think I would have thought we'd be at 3-3-2. So my answer is both, because it's definitely a better record than I would have expected, but not exactly who. The numbers are being picked up by who I thought they would be picked up by. That's where I fall in this.
Mm-hmm. I think it's better than I expected, not looking at the record, not looking at the stat sheet, but looking at the way they played, and the product that they put out on the ice. Before last week, before the 3-game losing streak, when they were 3-0-2, obviously you're ecstatic with the record. You're more happy about who's scoring the goals. You're more happy about the way you're beating these teams. You're more happy about how you shut down the Tampa Bay Lightning on opening night, how you stayed with the indomitable Florida Panthers, how you rolled over a bad team in the Chicago Blackhawks, how you rolled over a decent team in the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were playing really well without their best players. This past week, I'm still okay with it, because the way they played in the first period against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the way they played in the first 2 periods against the Calgary Flames. The only game that I'm really, really upset with is Saturday's game against the Devils, and even then, you're completely changing things up. Jeff Carter comes back in the lineup. Sidney Crosby comes back in the lineup. You're mixing and matching so many different things that undeniably, if you play a good team, and they played a really good team in the New Jersey Devils. In my opinion, they're going to be a good team. And the Devils were ready for it. The Penguins were in that game up until the last 5 minutes. But the Devils were ready for it. The Penguins just couldn't get things going. So when I look at the way they've played, they've surpassed my expectations. They've impressed me in the way that they have shown up in this first month. Are the results there? They're not. They're not where I want them to be. Obviously, you don't want them to be in last place in the division. But the way they've played on the ice, the way they've kind of bought into the system, and you've heard that a lot over the first 3 weeks of the year, that these players have bought into Mike Sullivan's system, the way that they've done that has been what has impressed me so far.
Yeah, I can't totally disagree. It is, if I didn't even think of rolling through like who we played against and how we handled. each of those teams, it is more impressive than I think anybody would have expected because you mentioned, I mean, we beat the Leafs 6-7-1. I don't think I would have mentioned that. I don't think I would have thought of that. I would have thought maybe, yeah, that's kind of what you get when your goalies are Jack Campbell, who really does still have to prove himself as a starter, I think. And
Peter Mrazek.
Flip-flop, man. That's hard. Peter Mrazek's a hard one to pin down. So I think maybe I would have believed it, but I really wouldn't have. 7-1?
Yeah.
That team won?
Yeah.
Not to continue harping on the Leafs almost 2 weeks after that game, but damn.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, yeah, I think we've definitely exceeded expectations. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to finish off the show with a quick minor league minute and then our weekly Pens poll. We'll be right back.